Welcome to another episode of Speaking with the Senator. I'm Senator Kevin Avard, and I'm here with my good friend Carl Seidel, colleague that we've been together since 2010, doing shows like this and with the People's View and with Speaking with the Senator. And I wanted Carl to come on the show and just kind of somebody I can bounce some information off of, because we just had a session just the other day, and there were a couple of pieces of legislation that came to mind, and I just wanted to bounce it off Carl. But I thank you for watching the show, and if you do like the show, please hit subscribe and share with others so that they can know what's going on. And with that, welcome, Carl.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted you to come on the show and basically kind of bounce stuff off you. You've been doing this for a long time, and with Bill Ohm and with others that political friends. And yesterday, I was just kind of scratching my head. I brought a couple of bills that came to mind. The first one was the SB, which means Senate Bill 461. And we had a long debate on this one. So this bill basically requires healthcare providers to report certain information about abortions performed to their medical facility, and requiring those medical facilities to report information to the Department of Health and Human Services for statistical purposes. Now, we probably talked about that for about an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. So right now in New Hampshire, abortions, according to Planned Parenthood, over and over and over again, they've said that abortions are safe in New Hampshire up to 24 weeks?
Yeah,
24 weeks. So nothing's changed. And this bill doesn't change that one iota. But we got lectured because now we want to keep statistics. We have to get our information from the other 46 other states that do this. And we heard words like, well, this is a dystopia. This is like we're going into the dark ages. This is a weird thing happening in New Hampshire. Women are going to have to get ultrasounds in order for this to happen. And I was looking at Senator Carson, and we were our minds were being blown right now. All we're saying is we're going to keep statistics on this. And of course, Senator Whitley and Senator Altshuler were getting up there saying, we're turning into the dark ages. You're going to be forced to have an ultrasound and an invasive process in order to get this data. And nothing can be further from the truth. What was happening on the Senate floor was a ginning up of fear to try to move the women in New Hampshire to vote to be in hysteria because we just want to collect data. Keep in mind, if you go and get a heart transplant or you get your kidneys looked at or you have any type of medical procedure, there is a documentation of data that goes into a bank. If you have mental illness, it doesn't matter what physical or what medical procedure you're going through. There's data on it, so HHS can.
Well, how many other states have that?
46.
So there's only a couple that don't.
Right.
And did anybody call them on this imaginations discussion?
Oh, a number of them did, and I think Senator Tim Lang, he actually got up and he asked our local one of our local senators. So if I'm suffering from mental health, or if there's mental health issues, are you saying then that our institutions are not secure? Oh, well, let me back up. One of the things that our senators did say is that, well, if we pass this bill, one agency like HHS or the Department of Justice or just any department of bureaucracy can put its little pressure on another department to gather this material. And if they don't cooperate, they'll just do their bureaucratic pressure. And that all brought up this whole idea, well, are you saying then that HHS or the Department of Justice or all these other agencies use pressure on other agencies to gather information against their will? Isn't that extortion? And we went through that process. And then, of course, Senator Tim Lang said, well, then does that mean my information or anybody's information on mental illness is at risk? And they really couldn't answer that. But it was just another red herring. They were throwing straws out there. And I just want to tell people, there's nothing that's going to force a woman to get an ultrasound in order for this data to be collected. It is for collecting purposes only. It doesn't matter what medical procedure you have in New Hampshire. It goes into a database, and it's ultra secure. So then they basically voted down the bill because it was combined with the 24 weeks or 26 weeks, 24 weeks. Either way, nothing's changed, and nobody's changing the abortion laws in New Hampshire. Everybody knows that I am definitely pro-life. I believe in it, and what we do want to prevent is late-term abortions. And last I checked, and people that I've talked with, yes, they agree with our particular laws right now, but they think it's pretty draconian to go into the late-term abortions up to the last minute.
Yeah.
So, and that's about 75% of the people that believe that. It just they don't want to see these late-term abortions being committed in New Hampshire. So, anyway.
Well, that is being discussed all around, but and everybody makes up things. I think this is terrible. You can't have a decent discussion about the facts, and that's a technique that I think we see too much of. It
is, and it's hyperbole. It's prevarication. That's a new word that I've learned not too long ago. But because I don't want to be throwing stones, but at the same point. If it was very hyperbolic, it was just out there, and I don't think it's fair to the citizens of New Hampshire. And what really bothers me, Carl, is the fact that the press picks up on that, and they put their own bent on it. So I would ask the people to look at the session. You can go to the Senate session on I think it's on YouTube or on the state website, and they have a YouTube link of the session and the debate going back and forth. So, there's that bill, and it's emotional. I mean, this is draining because, you're trying to have a decent discussion, and these things come out of left field like what is that all about?
One of the comebacks might be, why, we talk about abortion. What about the people who really don't want to have an abortion but feel they have to because of physical things or
some medical
monetary
need. Right.
Issues. Why don't we have the abortionists get support from the government? Why don't they support the woman who's pregnant for a full pregnancy?
For a full, that giving her the real choice.
Right.
Yeah, one way or another.
Well, I mean, it seems only fair. You pay both sides, or neither.
Right, and I don't think. There's competition right there. I think it's turning. I don't want to point fingers, but I don't understand why they're not doing that. I do know that Senator Gendron did get up and talk about, even if it were true, but it isn't, that women would have to get an ultrasound. That 72% of the women who do choose to do an ultrasound change their mind about having an abortion because they actually see it's a life. But again, I just want to assure individuals here watching this show that there's absolutely nothing that's changing other than a data collection that cannot be. There's no identifiers of the procedure, the person, or the person doing the procedure, or the person, or even the facility where it's at. But there's data collected on everything. Every time you go to the doctors, there's some kind of data that is collected.
So that's interesting because they have to know how to prepare, and if they see increase of something, maybe they find the source of the problem.
Right.
And you have to have data to be able to see the big picture and what the situation is. And there's many reasons, whether it's planning on the facility, planning on the number of people or the types of people you hire, or whatever. That's what the statistics are used for.
And it's important. They do everything from they survey children in schools. They things which they say they can't identify. Going towards one particular child, but sometimes these child surveys are there to serve HHS in some way to help them cope with certain issues, whether it's mental or physical, food insecurity, you name it. But somebody would ask, say, well, what are they trying to hide? You know, and that, you know, I don't know if we asked that on the Senate floor, but it, you know, it came, somebody whispered that in my ear, and I said, well, you should have asked that question. But that was one of the topics, and I wanted to bounce that off you. It's just, it's alarming that the misinformation was.
And it's magnified again.
Yeah. I submitted a bill on biological sex. That was SB 562. And this bill basically provided a definition for biological sex and provided that certain designations of biological sex do not constitute unlawful discrimination. So what is this about? So I put in a bill so that the schools that are struggling with this particular issue of biological males going into biological females' bathrooms, they don't know what to do. They don't have a clear definition as to what the rules are. So if they discriminate against somebody who's identifying as a woman or as a girl, they don't want to get sued. So this bill that I put in basically said the schools have the option to make and designate a female bathroom and a male bathroom. And you will not be held in harm of discrimination. That way they can, you know, clarify. And if they need to have one particular bathroom for an individual who's either dysphoria or has issues of trans that is uncomfortable with using one or the other, they can do that. And it was just an option, but we heard some resistance from it, and so what we did is we tabled that bill because there's an identical bill coming over from the House that the House did pass, but the rancor, the accusation, well, this is anti-LGBTQ, and I take offense to that. If they're going to take offense to something, I must say the same thing. Why is it that when I want to protect a biological young lady's bathrooms in their privacy, why is that an attack on somebody else? We want to protect the integrity and the safety of children in their bathrooms. Not everybody agrees with the particular lifestyle. Well, that's fine. If you're of another persuasion, that's your business. But what they're trying to do is force that on other individuals. And that's the debate that's going on. So if you don't agree with a particular LGBTQ status, well, all of a sudden you're a hater. But they're forcing their opinions on you.
Right.
And if you've been, you know, if you've grown up and learned these particular ethics, and it's been part of our culture for years and years and years, well, all of a sudden you're a hater if you agree with that. And it's time to push back. Put the brakes on. All right? Enough of the bullying. Because if you speak out against it, there are a number of people in that class that'll come after you, and they're accusing you of hate, but if you can see what's going on, it's just reverse bullying. So we put that bill in, and we're going to see what happens with the House bill. It did get tabled, and there's one thing that I do regret about it being tabled, in that there was it's called a PI, Parliamentary Inquiry. When we all agreed to table it, there was this last-minute phrase saying, if I agree that this is an anti-LGBTQ bill, would I now vote in favor of table? Well, that caught me by surprise, and then came the vote. That's not why we tabled the bill. And I want the public to understand that. We tabled the bill because there's another one identical, but one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle wanted to throw that in there. And all that does is it causes friction. It says, yeah, this bill was going to attack these people. No, it wasn't. That bill is to protect the integrity of the biological system that we've had for eons. And that's all it did. It gave the ability for the schools to make a decision. Didn't force them to. But if they choose to with this direction from the state. So.
Well, hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully that does go through.
Yeah. Deep sigh, right? I mean,
Well, you have one more too?
I got a couple. So anyway, that was another one that we
They
did.
kept you busy.
Yeah, I was busy and on a few bills. SB 375 requires that school sport team be expressly designated as male, female, co-ed, and it prohibits biological male students from participating in female designated sports or entering into a female locker room, and it creates a cause of action for athletes harmed as a result of the violation of these requirements. So my friends on the other side of the aisle vehemently oppose this because they feel that a biological male identifying as a woman should be able to play against women. But what this does is, again, this puts children at risk. Males, by far, it's well known that physically they're stronger. Maybe females are smarter, but males are definitely physically stronger and can cause harm in aggression. One of the things that people don't understand is that, well, if somebody identifies as a female, but he's a biological male and is suffering from dysphoria, now you're putting that individual in a situation where that individual can actually harm somebody that is much physically not as strong. So what we're saying is we want to protect the young ladies in their sports and the young men. And if they want to do a co-ed, they can do that. But now they have a platform. Okay, you're going to be playing against guys and girls are going to be, it'll be co-ed. That's fine. But when you have the other sports and the young ladies want to achieve maybe a scholarship or be their best amongst their own peers, amongst their own biological class, they're getting drowned out. And I think that people want somebody to speak up. And we did. And this is my bill. And again, this is one of those bills that protects young ladies. And it's funny because people have whispered in my ear, and this is a fact, Senator, I'm glad you did this. A lot of my colleagues, the Democrats, are afraid to speak up. They have a lot of young daughters in sports, and they're glad somebody else spoke up. But they're afraid to because they know they'll get shouted down and bullied. The bullying has to stop. It's not those that choose to recognize our culture as it has been, but those that are trying to force a change in what we've all known and loved for years. Boys play with boys, girls play with girls, and if you want the co-ed, that's fine. One of the scenarios somebody brought up and said, well, Senator, you know, what happens if a coach wants a dream team? So half a dozen of the boys identify as female and join the, you know, excuse me.
What happens if you're playing football, okay, and you have anybody, no matter what the weight is, able to play? I believe in a lot of schools, in the you know, either elementary or the high school level, have weight lift.
Yeah, and also in wrestling,
Right.
The same way. It's that way you're competing against your own fitness. But this bill again is another bill that protects you know, the biological system that we've all grown up and loved. You know, and again, we can do the co-ed. That's fine, no harm, no foul. But young ladies getting hurt. And it's time that somebody stands up. Yeah, there's going to be pushback. There's going to, oh, you hate. No, we don't hate. But the accusation is coming from hate. And people are getting tired of it. And it's time to push back. And they're afraid to, though. They're afraid to because they know they'll get shouted down. Oh, you hate LGBTQ.
Yeah.
No. Well, Senator Dan Innes voted for this vote. Yeah, he's married to a man. You know, he's not. He agrees with this. So Not everybody in the LGBTQ agrees with the trans going into the female sports. Not everybody does. And it doesn't mean they're a hater. It just means they understand biology. So that was SB 375. SB 523, this bill basically requires local school districts to adopt and publicly post policies describing materials authorized for use of students in district and outlining procedures to address complaints alleging that the material is harmful or age inappropriate for the use of districts, school districts. School libraries. That's what this is about. So Representative Cordelli, I don't know if you remember him.
Yes, I do.
He got up on the House floor, and he started reading from a book, I believe it was called Gender Queer. And immediately, the Democrats protested because, well, it had to do with violence or for whatever reason, they started walking out. And they protested the fact that he was going to read this book that's in elementary schools and whatever. Well, they said it was inappropriate to read it on the House floor.
What makes it inappropriate?
Well, the material that's in it. And the sexual content, the pictures, and
his objective was?
To say that if I can't read it here, why is it okay to read it for it to be in schools? So, and then we got all kinds of lectures when we heard this in the Senate, my bill. Well, democracy, this is an attack against democracy, and our school libraries are safe and they're the best in the world and blah, blah, blah. Democracy. And this is a bad bill, one of the senators said. And I objected. I said, no, this is a good bill for our republic. We're a republic. And a pure democracy is mob rule. And what they said was, well, one parent could just go in there and take a book and it would be shut down. That's not right. Well, in a pure democracy, mob rule would shut that one individual voice down. Correct. But this is a republic. So what this bill really does, it allows a parent, if they're notified of a particular book that is in the school library, they can protest. What do they do? It's a process. It's not a book banning, like the media is telling you. It's not a book banning. It is a process for parents. If they object to the material, they take the material, they bring it to the principal. I object. The principal has to come back within 10 days and we think this is okay, and sign off on it, okay? Then, if you're not happy with that decision, you have that ability to go to the superintendent. Same process. And if the superintendent says, I think this is okay for the kids to read, the book still stays in the library, but it has to be out there in the public for people to see why you're objecting to it. Then you can go before the school board. And again, you can protest before the school board, and the book will have to be in public display so everybody can see why you're objecting to it. Now, for whatever reason, if you're objecting to that particular book, you can do it. And if they agree that that book belongs in the library, they all have to sign off on it. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's not a book banning. But what it does, and my counterparts on the Democratic side don't want this kind of accountability. They don't want parents to be able to speak up. This bill gives the parent the ability to speak up and to be heard.
A voice.
And it goes through a process. It's not a book banning. The only way it becomes banned is if the school board says, yeah, I don't think our kids need to be reading this. How did this get in there? Did we approve this? Or did somebody else approve this? Yeah, we're going to take a second look at this. And then your elected individuals in the school board will take more notice to what's going on. Parents are complaining. They have a right. But nowadays, we've heard that if a parent goes to a school board meeting, and they object to something, they're the problem. And that's not right. That's democracy. That's mob rule. They should have the right to speak up. And they should have a right to have a process to go forward and say, look, I object to this. And if that process, you go through that process, the book stays, period. So anyway, thank you for letting me vent.
Well, you were busy up there.
Pardon me?
You were busy. You completed the switch over, right?
Yeah, crossover. Yeah,
crossover.
I think that's coming fully next week.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And so, we're still working on a lot of bills, and we're actually having double committees now to process a lot of the bills that are coming over from the House.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the marijuana bill's coming. It passed the House, so I have a bill that says something to the effect of a certain amount of THC won't be allowed. And
did they look at what's happening in places like Colorado?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it.
Can the Senate bring that up?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that report from the committee on
the one that you were part of.
Yeah.
That'll come up, and I know that there's some senators that are hard nosed on it on both sides of the aisle. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming on my show.
Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. So thanks for watching the show and letting me vent. If you watch the debates, that'll give you a real reflection. I get weary of the fact that the media basically takes one snippet and they take one side, and it's disheartening. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. And you can look at the debates, both what happens in committee and what happens on the Senate floor. And with that, I appreciate you watching Speaking with the Senator. Please hit the like button, share it, and we'll see you next week. Until then, thanks for coming.